Our first scary video was shared on TikTok by user Fryer, and it appears to show something quite unsettling. The blanket appears to be pulled as if tugged by an unseen hand. The boy woke up and told his mother that someone had grabbed his foot. At first, she didn't believe him. She told him it was probably just her moving in the bed. But after he drifted off again, she decided to check the CCTV playback. What she saw confirmed exactly what her son had described. Something had pulled the blanket and grabbed at his feet. The uploader wrote that the experience was deeply frightening. In a follow-up video, the family is shown having their home blessed by a local priest, hoping to put an end to whatever was happening. Skeptics have suggested the movement could be caused by the child shifting in his sleep, with the blanket's folds creating the illusion of being pulled. Others, however, believe this is a textbook case of poltergeist activity, an unseen force physically interacting with a person. So was this just a restless child tangled in his blankets, or does this footage show genuine poltergeist activity caught on camera?
She's walking up to the attic, she hears something go, "Rrr."
This scary video was shared on TikTok by real estate agent Making Moves with Kendra, and it's racked up millions of views since it was posted. The clip shows Kendra, a real estate agent based in Atlanta, Georgia, touring a vacant property with a new client.
Now I want to know what it looked like before.
The two women are exploring the upper level of a rundown house in Temple, Georgia, about 30 minutes west of Douglasville, when the client suddenly stops dead in her tracks.
I wonder if they added windows. I wonder why they just added windows. What is it?
Get out. Get out.
Okay.
Watching that again, the client's expression shifts to pure panic. She turns and says just two words, "Get out."
I wonder if they added windows. I wonder why they just added windows. What is it?
Get out. Get out.
Kendra follows her down the stairs asking what happened, but the client doesn't stop moving until they're outside. In a series of follow-up videos, Kendra fills in the details.
I told you guys what she heard. She's heard a demon. But, so that's it. If you guys don't want to stick around, she heard a demon. You don't have to sit around and listen to the story time. She heard a demon. Okay? Now, if you just want a quick story time, it's not even that interesting. But here we go. How did they start it?
The day had already been unsettling. Earlier, they'd visited a property in Douglasville that was in horrible condition.
It just smelled really, really bad. Really in horrible condition. It smelled like cat piss. That's what my client said. Cigarettes. It was just very filthy.
The second house in Temple was worse. It was an old, gutted property.
To the next home. The next home is in Temple, Georgia. I get to this home, I felt weird. I'm literally telling her, like, she witnessed it. Because I just felt bad energy. I'm like, oh girl, I'm so afraid. I'm gonna have to call you back. I'm in like this weird area. I gotta concentrate. I feel a little nervous. We're seeing this really old vacant house. It looks a little creepy, blah, blah, blah.
Previous investors had started renovating and abandoned the project.
Previous investors had the home, and for whatever reason, they gave up on the project. The only thing they did was add new windows. I believe there weren't windows before because literally all throughout the home were bird nests. Random bird nests everywhere, and I'm scared of birds as well.
Before entering the property, Kendra's client had said something unusual.
When we're walking into the house, my client says, "Hello, we're coming in. Please be nice to us."
She announced, "Hello, we're coming in. Please be nice to us." When Kendra assumed she was following standard safety protocol for vacant homes, the client corrected her. "I'm talking to the ghost."
I'm thinking, remember at the last house, I tell you guys, I announced myself in vacant homes. So I thought that's what she was doing. Then my client proceeds to say, "I'm talking to the ghost."
Despite all of this, the client headed upstairs. Kendra followed. Then the client walked toward the attic. That's when she heard it.
My client was going up into the attic. Why? I don't know. Because I don't do attics. I don't do basements of old vacant houses. I just don't. She's walking up to the attic. She hears something go, "Rrr."
Something made a sound from inside the attic. The client insists it wasn't an animal. She had her dog with her and isn't afraid of animals. Whatever she heard, it left her looking, in Kendra's words, like she saw a dead body.
She looked like she saw a dead body. I thought she saw a dead body. I'm not kidding. I'm like, what the hell? Is this someone dead? Like, what?
The two women fled. Outside, the client prayed. Kendra called a friend and broke down crying. She drove an hour back to Atlanta and didn't look back. Thousands of commenters have weighed in. Some believe the client genuinely sensed something dangerous in the house. Others suggest it could have been an animal nesting in the attic or even a squatter. A few pointed out that old abandoned houses can produce all sorts of unsettling sounds, from settling foundations to wildlife. But the client's reaction is hard to dismiss. She didn't seem startled, she seemed certain. So was there something lurking in that abandoned house in Temple, Georgia? A wild animal nesting in the attic, or something far harder to explain?
I wonder if they added windows. I wonder why they just added windows. What is it?
Get out. Get out.
Okay.
This touching and unexplained clip was shared on TikTok by user Ale_Valencia. According to the uploader, her younger sister passed away in February 2026 after a long battle with cancer. The footage was captured during the wake, a memorial gathering held at the family home. In the clip, a single white balloon can be seen moving through the room. But it doesn't drift aimlessly the way balloons typically do. It moves with what appears to be purpose. The balloon eventually comes to rest right next to the sister's younger brother. The family interpreted this as a sign. They believed their sister was there, saying goodbye one last time, choosing to settle beside her little brother in a final moment of comfort. Ultimately, what truly matters is that the family was able to find some comfort in this event, whatever the specific explanation for it may be. This unsettling incident took place on live Japanese television back in 1993 during a broadcast of the popular daytime variety show Warate Itomo, hosted by the legendary Tamori. During one segment, a viewer sent in what appeared to be a copy of the Japanese rock band Beez's fourth album, Risky. But this wasn't just any CD. The viewer claimed that every time it was played, the audio would inexplicably change and the volume would randomly adjust on its own. They said the CD was cursed or haunted. What came out of the speakers wasn't the album Risky at all. Instead, the studio heard faint piano sounds and a barely audible woman's voice. Then, without warning, the volume surged. The quiet murmuring gave way to eerie groans, moans, and loud screams that filled the studio. audience panicked. Tamori, ever the showman, used the chaos to crack jokes and lean into the tension, but the reaction from the crowd was genuine. The incident was notable enough that it was revisited later that year in a 1993 Best of special. When they played the same CD again during the broadcast, the contents had apparently changed once more.
この CD をCD 持ってる人全然違うんでしょこれと。全然違うんですよ。これ後で CD 止めて CD 見せますよ。ちゃんとビーズのライブが。
This time, an unknown man's voice suddenly emerged, followed again by the woman's moaning. The implication was clear. The CD's audio was different every single time it was played. Some have long alleged the entire thing was an elaborate prank, a staged segment designed to boost ratings on a show already known for its wild variety acts. Japanese television in the early 90s was famous for pushing boundaries with shock entertainment. But others point out that the audience's reaction seemed too raw to be scripted, and the fact that the CD produced different sounds on two separate occasions months apart has kept the mystery alive for over 30 years. This creepy clip was shared on TikTok by user Phyllis Severus, and the backstory makes it even more unsettling. The uploader says she was staying at an Airbnb in Asheville, North Carolina with her family. The rental was a big house in the middle of the woods, with the nearest neighbor roughly 5 miles away. In the middle of the night, the doorbell started ringing.
Is there someone at the door?
Not once, not twice, over and over and over without stopping. Her uncle and grandfather went outside to check the property, expecting to find someone lurking around. They found nothing. No person, no headlights, no cars, just darkness and woods. When they checked the doorbell itself, they discovered it had been physically jammed in. Someone or something had pressed it hard enough for the button to stick. Her uncle had to manually unjam it to get the ringing to stop. The doorbell had been ringing for about 3 minutes before anyone went out to investigate, and this was only the second day of a week-long stay. The uploader says she spent the remaining nights on edge. On the last night, she heard a strange scraping sound outside, like something dragging across gravel. But there was no gravel anywhere on the property.
The last night I did hear a weird sound outside in the middle of the night, like something scraping or gravel, but there's no gravel outside, so I don't know.
What's made viewers pay extra attention, though, is a deeper look into the uploader's other videos. In an older post, she shares camcorder footage from 2002 of her parents deciding to buy their family home.
Take you downstairs, I guess, in a second. Okay,
oh my
so this
God.
is the basement downstairs.
Ew.
And this has been their sort of youth hangout room. It's pretty cool.
The house was built in the 1910s, and she describes it as haunted by an entity she called the Smiling Man.
Then they have a cool little kitchen, which I guess works.
According to the uploader, the house still had its original wallpaper and beds that pulled out of the walls. Every night, she suffered from chronic night terrors, waking up crying and screaming. She says she would sometimes see the smiling man standing on the stairs beneath the attic's skylight.
Where is it? I want to see it. The creepy haunted house we lived in with all the little dark corners.
This has led some viewers to wonder whether the entity from her childhood home might still be attached to her. Could the smiling man have followed her to that Airbnb in the woods? Could he have been the one ringing the doorbell?
Is there someone at the door?
Skeptics would note that doorbell buttons can stick from moisture, cold weather, or simple mechanical wear. A house deep in the woods would also be visited by wildlife, and animals have been known to bump into or press objects around porches. The night terrors from childhood could be unrelated, a common condition that many people outgrow. But the uploader clearly doesn't see it that way, and the connection between her haunted childhood and this strange night in Asheville has left viewers uneasy. So was this just a faulty doorbell in a remote rental property, or has something been following this woman since childhood?
Let's go to this little piddly one. Does it have a name?
This strange clip comes from Australian YouTuber EEVblog2, who spotted something bizarre trending on X and decided to test it out for himself.
Hi, I saw this Google Maps anomaly on X and I thought, hey, is that real? I thought I'd check it out. Let's go here, we're in Australia.
The original post claimed there was an unexplained anomaly hidden inside Google Maps. According to the viral clip, if you zoom in on a small, unnamed island just off the coast of Western Australia near Barrow Island and drop the Street View figure onto the location, something very odd happens.
Oh, little islands here. Let's go to this little piddly one. Anyway, there doesn't appear to be anything there, but if we get our little street map person here, look at this. There's a thing. Somebody's put a thing there. Let's go in and what is this?
Instead of the usual satellite imagery or coastal scenery, the view appears to shift into an interior space.
Office? Like with drop ceilings? What's going on here?
A strange portal-like structure fills the screen, and above it sits what looks like a blank office room, complete with drop ceilings and fluorescent lighting.
So yes, it's real. It's actually there. It's really there.
The OP walks through the whole process on camera. He navigates to the island, drops the Street View pin, and confirms it's real. The anomaly is actually there on Google Maps.
What is this? It's a portal. It's a portal inside a, office?
Many have said it's proof of the infamous backrooms. The backrooms, for those unfamiliar, is a popular internet urban legend that originated from a creepypasta post in 2019. The concept describes a vast, seemingly infinite network of empty, yellowish rooms with buzzing fluorescent lights and damp carpet. The idea is that if you accidentally no-clip out of reality, you could find yourself trapped in these monotonous, liminal spaces with no clear way out. What began as a single unsettling image evolved into a massive online mythology, spawning countless stories, games, and videos. The backrooms have amassed billions of views across platforms, becoming one of the internet's most recognizable horror concepts. So was this just a clever prank uploaded to Google Maps by someone with too much time on their hands, or did someone accidentally stumble onto a liminal space hiding in plain sight off the coast of Australia?
What is this? It's a portal. It's a portal inside a, office? With drop ceilings?
This eerie clip was shared on TikTok by user L Guy Paints, who says it was captured on a Ring home security camera. The footage shows what appears to be a mysterious smoke-like substance drifting slowly into the room. It moves with an almost deliberate quality, wafting through the space before dissipating. According to the uploader, this was recorded a week before a loved one in the family passed away. The room belonging to that family member is just to the left, out of the camera's view. The uploader was careful to rule out the obvious. Nobody in the household smokes. Nobody was cooking at the time. Nothing was being burned. No sage, no candles, no incense. The Ring camera simply picked up something drifting through the room that shouldn't have been there. So what was this ghostly substance caught on camera? A quirk of infrared imaging and airborne particles, or something more personal passing through that room?
I am freaking the out right now. What is CERN doing with our timeline? Like, what are they doing?
This strange clip was shared on TikTok by user Geektastrophe42 and it's left viewers divided. The woman in the video explains that nearly 20 years ago, when her son was still in nappies, her best friend crocheted her a hat and scarf using 2 skeins of yarn she'd bought herself. 1 hat, 1 scarf, that was all the yarn would allow.
My son is 22 years old, and when he was in diapers, he was like 2.5. My best friend crocheted these for me. I bought the yarn in the colors I wanted. These are my favorite. And he crocheted it for me.
But while recently unpacking boxes from a storage unit, she pulled the items out of a cedar chest and found something that stopped her cold.
Right, was 1 hat and 1 scarf. What the is happening?
There were 2 hats. Not 1, 2, both made from the same coloured yarn, but with slightly different patterns.
They look different, but I don't remember this one.
She says she only remembers the original hat, the one with the telltale lines near the bottom where the yarn started running out. The second hat is a complete mystery to her.
I remember this one because it had these weird lines where it started to separate at the bottom because he was running out of yarn. I don't remember this one at all.
So she messaged her friend. She asked him to recall exactly what he'd made for her all those years ago.
It's like, hey dude, listen, I need you to remember this event for me correctly, okay? Because I'm not sure I am. He said, well, what's going on? And I said, remember that scarf and hat you made for me? The one in the fall colors, and I bought the yarn. And he's like, yeah.
He doesn't remember making a second hat either, and he says he would have needed a whole extra skein of yarn to do it.
What exactly did you crochet out of all of that? And he said, I made you 1 hat and 1 scarf because that's all you asked for, and you only gave me 2 skeins of yarn. I was like, that's it? 1 hat and 1 scarf? And he said, yeah, that was all you gave me enough for. I said, you didn't make me 2 hats? He goes, no, I would have needed a whole nother skein of yarn for that.
The uploader attributes the mystery to CERN and what she calls a glitch in the timeline, a personal Mandela effect. For those unfamiliar, the Mandela effect describes the phenomenon where large groups of people share identical false memories, named after the widespread but incorrect belief that Nelson Mandela died in prison in the 1980s. Skeptics would point out that over 20 years memories can easily blur. It's entirely possible the friend made 2 hats and simply forgot about it. Or perhaps someone else made the second hat as a gift and the memory faded over time. But the woman seems genuinely rattled, and the fact that both she and her friend independently have no memory of the second hat has viewers paying attention.
This one, I remember this one because it had these weird lines where it started to separate at the bottom because he was running out of yarn. I don't remember this one at all.
This story begins in the 1960s when a family from England booked their usual summer holiday in Cornwall. Their regular rental was taken, so they settled on the only property left, an 18th century farmer's cottage. The owner stopped by every morning with fresh produce, eager to hear how they were enjoying their stay. It later emerged he did this because most guests wouldn't last more than 2 nights. The children hated it from the start. At night, they'd hear breathing in their room. Both dreaded going upstairs. Their mother told them they were being silly, but she later admitted she'd been frightened too. The wind never blew through the garden trees. The birds never sang. Word reached the grandfather through a local pub. The farmer who'd lived there in the early 19th century had murdered his wife and hanged himself from a tree in the garden. That tree was still standing. Every night, both grandparents had identical nightmares, people in Victorian dress being flayed alive. They'd hear creaks in the bedroom corner as though someone was standing there. On their second to last night, a crash erupted from the corner like a gun going off. Both jolted awake. The grandfather fell back asleep. The grandmother couldn't. A woman's voice began speaking from behind the bed, twisted and vicious. The grandmother recited the Lord's Prayer. She finished just in time to hear the voice's final words. And now I'm in hell. She rushed downstairs and never returned to that room. Over 50 years later, in 2019, a grandchild tracked the house down. It was still there, available as a holiday rental. No mention of any haunting. They booked it for January 2020. They arrived after dark. The interior had been modernized. They chose the master bedroom, the same room their grandparents had slept in. It was inexplicably hot despite being mid-January. Flies buzzed around the rafters. At 3 a.m, a crash came from the corner of the room. Same corner, same sound described decades earlier. They told themselves it was the heating and went back to sleep. The next evening, walking home from a nearby pub in total darkness, they turned off their phone torch to look at the stars. From just beyond the hedge, maybe 10 feet away, a woman's scream cut through the night. They ran. When the torch came back on, 2 snarling dogs stood in the road ahead, no owner in sight. They edged past. The barking stopped abruptly. When they turned around, the dogs were gone. Back inside, shaken, they found 5 electric candles and switched them all on. They retrieved a homemade Ouija board. The moment they picked it up and turned around, every candle went out simultaneously. All 5 were still switched on, but all had gone dark at the same instant. At 3 a.m. again, the crash returned. Same spot, same violence. They lay awake until morning. 10 months later, looking through photos from the trip, they zoomed in on the cottage's kitchen window, taken during the day when the house was locked and empty. In the window stood a large, completely black silhouette. A figure staring out. The photos were posted on Reddit's Paranormal by user Economics. Skeptics have suggested the silhouette could be a reflection, furniture, or a shadow from interior objects, and that the story relies on oral history spanning generations. But the consistency is striking. The same room, the same corner, the same crash at 3 a.m. described independently by people separated by half a century. And now, a figure in the window of a house that should have been empty. Was this dark figure just a trick of light in a kitchen window? Or has something been waiting inside that Cornish cottage for a very long time? This unsettling image was shared on Reddit's paranormal forum by user HealthBright555, and it quickly went viral with over 1,000 upvotes. According to the post, the uploader's teenage son thought it'd be fun to set up a security camera in his bedroom. The camera was motion activated, designed to start recording whenever it detected movement. At 1 a.m, the camera triggered. The image it captured appears to show a figure standing in the room. Not a vague shadow or a smudge of light, something that looks disturbingly like a person. The parent tried to reassure their son, explaining it away as dust, interference, or a camera glitch. But the teenager wasn't having it. According to the post, he was upstairs burning sage and begging his sister to swap rooms. Commenters didn't hold back. The top reply, with over 500 upvotes, read simply, "WTF, this looks like a real person." Another highly upvoted comment said, "If that's honestly the original picture, I'd already be moved out." The uploader later suggested it could possibly be their daughter caught on camera, but they weren't sure. So was this just a camera artifact that happened to resemble a person, or was something genuinely caught on camera in that bedroom at 1 a.m? This quick but unsettling clip was shared on TikTok by user LexusTaurus4, showing something caught on their home security camera. The dude is definitely up to something weird. Then he just disappears. Let's just chalk this one up as bizarre and move right along. This scary video was posted to our Slapped Ham subreddit. A woman named Sarah says her cousin's motion sensor camera captured something truly unsettling while the entire family was out for the evening. Her cousin's husband works nights and she'd taken their 3 kids to a church dinner. The house was completely empty, but the motion camera disagreed. In the footage, a white object, possibly a dryer sheet, drifts across the frame. The windows were closed, there was no breeze strong enough to carry it, and Sarah says her cousin never found where the sheet ended up afterwards. But it's the audio that really sets this clip apart. Heavy, deliberate stomps can be heard echoing through the empty house, followed by a low, guttural growling. So what was stomping through that empty house and what was growling in the dark while the family was safely at church? Could there be a rational explanation, or did the camera capture something that defies one? If you want to see more scary videos, then hit that subscribe button and turn on all channel notifications. That way you'll always know when we drop a new Scary Videos compilation. On the evening of August 21st, 1955, a man named Billy Ray Taylor stepped outside the Sutton family farmhouse in Christian County, Kentucky to fetch water from the well. What he saw in the sky changed the course of the night and left a mark on the family that would last a lifetime. Taylor reported seeing a bright disc-like object streak across the sky and land in a wooded area near the property. When he rushed inside to tell the others, nobody believed him. They assumed he'd seen a shooting star and left it at that. But roughly an hour later, the dogs started barking. Taylor and Elmer Lucky Sutton grabbed their guns and stepped out onto the porch to investigate. Approaching from the tree line was a small, glowing figure. It stood between 2 and 4 feet tall, with an oversized elliptical head, large pointed ears, and long arms ending in claw-like hands. Its eyes were wide and luminous, glowing yellow in the dark. The men opened fire. Taylor had a .22 rifle, Sutton had a 12-gauge shotgun. When the bullets struck the creature, witnesses said the sound was like rounds hitting a metal bucket. The figure didn't fall. Instead, it performed what they described as a backwards flip and floated away into the darkness. What followed was nearly 4 hours of what the family would later call a siege. Multiple creatures appeared around the farmhouse, peering through windows and doorways, climbing onto the roof, and reaching down from overhead when the men stepped outside. Every time one was shot, it tumbled or floated away, only for another to take its place. Inside the house were 5 adults and 7 children. The women and children huddled together while the men took turns firing at anything that moved. At one point, Taylor stepped onto the porch and something grabbed at his hair from above. Sutton pulled him back inside. By 11 o'clock that night, the family had had enough. They piled into their cars and drove at speed to the Hopkinsville police station. Officers described the family as genuinely terrified. A search party of 16 people, including city police, state troopers, and military police from nearby Fort Campbell, descended on the farmhouse. They found bullet holes in the walls and broken window screens, but no blood, no footprints, no bodies, no physical trace of the creatures at all. The entities were described consistently by all witnesses: small, with oversized heads and enormous glowing eyes, bat-like ears, long spindly arms. They didn't walk so much as float, swaying like a pendulum as they moved. The descriptions were remarkably uniform across multiple people who were interviewed separately. The aftermath left its own traces. Ufologist Jerome Clark documented an odd luminous patch on the ground where one of the beings had reportedly been shot. Skeptics suggested this was foxfire, a naturally occurring bioluminescence produced by certain fungi. Elmer Sutton's daughter, Geraldine Sutton Starth, later reported that her father identified a perfectly circular dead spot on the property, roughly 28 feet in circumference, where no grass or flowers would grow for years after the encounter. The psychological toll was significant. Elmer Sutton reportedly remained terrified for the rest of his life, not just of the creatures returning, but of public ridicule. He eventually refused all interviews. The family never sought money or fame from the incident. In fact, the attention they received was almost entirely negative. The United States Air Force officially classified the case as a hoax under Project Blue Book. Skeptics Joe Nickell and Brian Dunning later proposed that the creatures were actually great horned owls. The birds are nocturnal, have large yellow eyes, fly silently, and can appear surprisingly large when agitated. A meteor shower occurring that same night may have accounted for Taylor's initial sighting of a falling object. Some psychologists have suggested intoxication played a role, though police officers who responded to the scene noted that no drinking appeared to have been involved. But the owl theory has its own problems. Great horned owls don't typically approach humans in groups, don't glow, and don't make metallic sounds when struck. The family fired dozens of rounds over 4 hours and not a single feather, blood smear, or animal carcass was ever recovered. Critics have also noted that the Suttons and Taylors were frequently dismissed as uneducated hillbillies, a characterization that colored public perception of the case for decades. In reality, reporters at the time noted the family's sobriety and the fact that their property was flat farmland near other homes, not some isolated mountain shack. The encounter has since become one of the most referenced cases in ufological history. It's widely believed to have inspired Steven Spielberg's unproduced film, Night Skies. It influenced the 1986 movie Critters. The creature's description bears a striking resemblance to the Pokemon Sableye, and the town of Kelly still celebrates the event every year with a festival called Little Green Men Days, despite the fact that the original witnesses never described the beings as green. 7 decades on, the Kelly-Hopkinsville encounter remains stubbornly unresolved. The witnesses never changed their story, they never profited from it, and no single explanation has satisfactorily accounted for everything that happened on that August night in Kentucky. Were the Suttons simply spooked by owls and a meteor shower, their fear amplified by darkness and adrenaline? Or did something genuinely unexplained descend on that farmhouse in 1955, something that's never been adequately identified? Continue watching more scary videos. These are the scariest of 2025.